Thank you all for joining the Town of Concord Public Works Commission meeting. So in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually. The Public Works Commission is conducting this meeting on June 9th, 2021, starting at 4 p.m. on the Zoom platform in accordance with town policy, directive, and guidelines issued on April 1st of 2020 and amended on May 7th. I ask that all Public Works commissioners, town staff, and presenters activate their video and mute their microphone unless they have something to say or are participating in committee dialogue. For members of the public, when I open the meeting for public comment, in order to be recognized, please use the raise your hand option in Zoom or use *9 by phone. If you are recognized, please state your name and address. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on the town's website. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I, Jeff Vassar, hereby call this meeting to order. All commission votes will be taken via roll call. We will start with an attendance roll call of all commissioners. When I announce your name, please reply. James Terry.
Present.
Andrew Boardman. David DeLong.
Here.
Jeff Vassar, present, and Casey Winslow. Doesn't look like Casey is here at this point. But if she's
Casey had indicated she's unable to join.
Okay. Thank you. So the first item is review and approval of our meeting minutes from the May 12th Public Works Commission meeting. I'll ask if any of the commissioners have any comments.
Jeff, I've got one comment, and that is the fact that Anna helps prepare these minutes every meeting, and she does a fantastic job. So I want to just make acknowledgement of that. I know she works probably with Alan, but Anna must do a fantastic job in that.
Yes. Thank you, Anna. Let's not give Alan too much credit. We'll give it all to Anna. Any other comments on the minutes themselves? If there are not any, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Andrew seconded. By roll call, we'll take a vote. We have a motion to approve. James Terry.
Aye.
Andrew Boardman.
Aye.
David DeLong.
Aye.
And Jeff Vassar. Aye. So meeting minutes are approved. As we do at every meeting, we can talk about our calendar for future meeting and upcoming events and critical dates. So with that, I believe I'll turn it over to Alan.
Okay, very good. So at this time of year, we tend to be winding down a lot of the necessary time-sensitive business. You will note that there is, if possible, following town meeting, a recess for the summer. That is traditional. We try to give the commission July and August reprieve unless there's some urgency or need to reconvene. We'd expect to bring the commission back for September meeting. And when you look at the calendar, you'll notice that there is just sort of placeholders. Oftentimes, for some of the new commission members, there's a cycle to things. One thing I would highlight this year is that we are looking to advance at least a preliminary roads program, discussion for the fall to be more in keeping with our sort of funding requests and town meeting schedules. So that's a slight change. But otherwise, we have somewhat of placeholders of some of the routine administrative functions we'd be going through, and they get populated based on more seasonal sensitive or case sensitive needs. So that's the intent, and we'd hope that we do get the summer off if opportunity allows.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions on that? Suggestions? Okay, So now we'll move on to the town meeting preparation, obviously coming up very shortly, maybe 10 days or so. So Alan, back to you on that.
Sure. So good news, I guess. We are still working in the COVID abbreviated mode for town meeting. Will be held outdoors at the Doug White Field up at the high school on Sunday, this coming Sunday from 1 to 5. It's scheduled. The community is aware of this streamlined approach where there's been a series of meetings and hearings leading up to town meeting for people who want to get informed on the various articles that are being presented. The majority of the public works related articles are more routine. We have solid waste recycling article. We have a sewer improvement fund article. We have the sewer fund article. We have a water fund article. All those have been incorporated into the consent calendar. So what that means is there's nothing particularly controversial. People have had an opportunity to listen to what is included in our asks at town meeting. And unless I believe it's 10 people at town meeting decide they want to pull one of these, that we shouldn't anticipate any discussion. They will just be rolled into the consent calendar, vote. So should there be a need to, have one of these articles pulled and discussed, generally speaking, the Public Works chair would be asked to respond, depending on what the reason it was called. And I've been informed that if it's a kind of a quick discussion, Jeff, you and I would sort of confer conference, depending on staff will be there in the event there's a question that engineering might need or highway ground. So we'll be there. And if it's more detailed, you can always ask staff to speak to the issue. So that's sort of the protocol. So that's the consent calendar. One thing that this commission should be aware of is Article 9. That's the FY21 town budget line item adjustments. That's where funds that have been appropriated across the spectrum for the general funds, throughout town. It's one opportunity to do a correction at the end through the town meeting process where certain funds may have been committed and potentially overcommitted, some undercommitted. For Public Works, we know that the recent culvert failure on Monument Street was not anticipated. And we're looking at a cost of somewhere to the tune of about $600,000 that had not been anticipated. That request for a transfer to Public Works has been made, and that's part of what will be incorporated in Article 9. There's also a couple line items that deal with the cardboard collection we've talked about as a result of the increased demands through COVID and costs, as well as the trash collection and pickup in the downtown areas and some of the park areas, again, relating to takeout, services and increased activity. Those two items have also been included in the transfer request for Article 9. There's a brief write-up that'll be made available for all of the expenditures that are being sort of identified, not just Public Works, but just so the commission's aware, that's not routine, but if there's questions, likely it would be handled through Carrie LaFleur, the town finance director, but we'd be there to support. So other than that, I think it's a question of, it's in person at Doug White Field, 1 o'clock, and staff will be there and you're all invited and hopefully we'll see you there. And weather is supposed to be pretty good. I put a special order in through Public Works and we had a direct connect and I think we're looking good. Not so hot and humid, and do hydrate. We highly recommend that.
Thank you, Alan. I do have a couple questions, but before I ask, are there questions from any commission members? It doesn't look like any. I see a number of people here, some who may be from the public. Are there any questions from anybody else on the call? Anna, I'm not good at seeing if anybody raises their hand, so please feel free to let me know if someone has at any point during the meeting. Couple quick questions, Alan. One of them on the Article 9 stuff, these additional transfers.
Mhm.
Are they, you said there's going to be an additional write-up. Will there be a separate write-up, not a separate write-up, but a separate description for each, as in the culvert, the cardboard pickup, and the trash pickup?
That's correct. It'll be a one pager that'll identify where the funds were made available or underspent and where they'd be transferred to, with a narrative, just a couple lines for each of those issues.
Okay. And my second question is, this is my first time attending as a commission member. Where can I find you and the rest of the staff so that we can be close to each other? Should a question come up, it's easy to have eye contact or lean over and ask someone a question.
That's a great question. I kind of will sidebar with you, but it's not that overwhelming when you're there, and I tend to be probably behind by, there's some grandstands, and that's where staff generally sits, kind of looking out towards the setup. So there'll be, if you've been there last year, we have panels that are laid out for, it was originally for social distancing and to allow chairs to be placed, so we had separation, but it also protects the playing field. So these chairs will be facing the podium, where the moderator will be presenting, and behind the podium you'll see a small grandstand, and staff will be in that grandstand.
Okay, thank you. Not that I'm going to hold anybody to it, but I will certainly be there. And if any other commission members at this point are hoping to attend, Jim's nodding his head. Okay. So hopefully there'll be a couple of us there. Thank you for the overview, Alan. Guess who's up next? Alan.
And team. So this is the director's report. What we'll do is go through, we provided in the packet sort of a narrative. This is an opportunity for what I call the program managers or project experts to speak to their division issues. And because we're not going to be meeting over the summer, we thought we'd just kind of give you an update as where certain projects are and anticipate what's happening over the summer, just as an FYI. I will highlight that we are working collectively to improve our website content, and with the goal of a lot of the important projects, if you go to the town website and you go to Public Works, you'll be able to see our projects and get overviews and updates as needed. And we're kind of working on trying to standardize that, but just something worth knowing if you're interested, or once you get familiar with that, then you'll know kind of what the content looks like. So we're working on that as we speak. But with that said, I'm going to ask Melissa Simoncini is on the screen. I'm going to bring up the presentation. Can you all see the cover? Are we?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Melissa.
Thanks, Ellen. Good afternoon. For those who I haven't met yet, my name is Melissa Simoncini. I'm the Environmental Services Program Administrator. Of my many hats, one of them is trash and recycling. So just this past month, we were able to host the semi-annual drop-off event. And in the next few slides, we'll have just a few pictures of the event. So those of you who haven't been there might be able to see. We had a very successful event. We were able to welcome about 630 households. We had 550 of those pre-registered, with about 80 on-site registration. It was a very successful event. Almost all of our dumpsters for oversized waste were full. And financially, the event went very well. It's the overall goal is to cut even. It's not a money-making event. We just want to be able to fund proper recycling and disposal of items. And it is a huge undertaking. We're planning all week long before, cleaning up almost the entire week after. So it's a big thank you to Aaron and all of his staff for all of the assistance they provide that day of the event. Next slide. And the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight was just quickly our new curbside collection contract. We have a curbside collection contract that runs from July 1 to September 30th, 2022. So it's an odd time frame, but it helps align the curbside collection contract with the subscription period. At this point in time, everything besides the pricing is the services are pretty much the same. The one big change is that we will now have, besides a fixed rate for our recyclables, processing our recycling, we will have what is called a blended value rate, where our recycled goods are actually marketed as commodities by Waste Management. So just like gold and oil and silver and corn are all on the open market, so are our recyclables. You don't really see it very much, but they're out there. So, let's say aluminum is probably one of the, we get one of the best values for aluminum, but glass, we actually have to pay for it to be recycled. So all of that goes into a formula. So you can go to the next slide, Alan. Where we have two set fees calculated annually: our transportation of getting the recyclables to the facility and how much it costs to process the recyclables. And so you get the total of those, and then you take away the value that Waste Management gets for the recycling on the open market. So if you go to the next slide, Alan. This is just a general table of our rates over the years. So our last contract for the 20 years and the amendments, everything has been set. So we paid, $25 per ton for our paper recycling. Waste Management wanted us to pay $60 per ton, but there was a contract thing that we worked through. And then, for commingled, which is everything else besides the paper, for let's say FY22, we paid $29 a ton. FY16, we paid $29 a ton. FY24, we paid, or apparently I can't speak, FY21, we paid $34 a ton. When we were going through this whole thing, or over the last year with China Sword and the shakeup of the recycling markets, that really helped us out because we paid that flat rate. As we were looking for our new contract, if we settled in on a flat rate, our rates would have been upwards of $100 per ton, $130 per ton. But being able to use this new blended value recycling formula, which most communities use now, if we were seeing those fees, can you go back to the next slide, Alan? We would only be paying about $24 or $54 a ton for recycling. And so the markets are improving. Recyclables have more value. In June, the markets are looking even better. We may only be, if we were paying blended values right now, we may only be paying close to $20 a ton for our commingled recycling. So the real moral of this is using the blended value recycling fee, we're able to take advantage of a better market over the next year, rather than locking in a fee of close to $100 for our recycling fees. Oh, and then the last little nugget that I wanted to let people know about is that Concord was just awarded a mattress recycling grant. Mattresses are going to be on the waste ban list, which means they can't be landfilled as of this fall. So Concord applied to get some funding from the state to help us with our mattress recycling program. So in total, it's somewhere in the nature of $10,000 to $17,000, which is a pretty significant amount when mattresses cost about $20 each for recycling. And so over the next few months this summer, we'll be working and to see how it looks for Concord and to see how we can best utilize those funds for the residents. And I think that's all I had tonight.
Thank you, Melissa. Alan, do you mind if I take questions after each presenter?
Yeah, it's your call. That's whatever works for the commission. Yeah.
Any questions from the commission members? Well, I'm getting a reputation here. I always have questions. On the mattress, Melissa, would it be like cardboard? There'll be a container, people show up and can either just deposit their mattress or pay a fee ahead of time and deposit it? How is that going to work?
I will update you at our next meeting
Okay.
once we know a little bit more about the vendors who we have available to work with, and
Okay.
we'll talk internally about what it means.
Okay. David had a question.
Yeah, Melissa, thank you. Just a question in general about the trends in recycling. So what do I tell my neighbors when they ask me, so what's happening with our recycling? What's the, where are our costs headed in the next year or two? What's the bottom line, sort of the short message for at the neighborhood cookout, when I get asked this question?
Absolutely. I think the bottom line is that we need to have people starting to think about reducing their amount of materials that they take in versus just recycling materials, because recycling is no longer free and it costs money.
Yes.
So that's the main, I guess, cookout topic to talk about. And so there will be price increases. They'll see them, for the short contract, and they'll see them over the long term. But as a community, we're working to reduce the amount of financial burden while maximizing our ability to do the right thing.
Okay. Is there any percentage ballpark? I mean, we're going to see, and I realize this, you may not know the answer to this. I mean, we talk about a 50% increase in, and I'm not even sure where I'm paying this. I just bought my stickers today at Crosby's. Those are $1.80 now, but those are really just for trash, right? Those are not
Right.
for, so are we paying a quarterly fee or a semi-annual fee to the town for the recycling that I'm?
So right now, the way the program's structured is that we pay your subscription fee, which essentially pays for the collection of your trash. And then you pay for your solid waste, so your trash, your landfill waste, in a pay-as-you-throw program. So the more you throw away, the more you pay.
Right.
At this point in time, the way the program's structured, they don't pay anything for recycling processing. That's built into the general subscription fee, because we still want to incentivize people to recycle, even though right now it costs more per ton to recycle. And as we develop the next program, we'll be looking into some interesting ways to encourage waste reduction in general.
Right. So are we going to start charging people then? Are you going to start charging us for recycling? I mean, is that going to, or is that just going to factor into that subscription fee that will be increased?
That is all to be determined, and the people will be seeing a lot of information gathering over the summer and fall as we move forward in developing the next contract to see how all that works.
Melissa, if I can step in, David, we're working on a contract that is, goes back almost a couple decades.
Wow.
So we appreciate, and with the new team, that, the needs may be changing. And when you talk about things, we need to get familiar with universal waste. Those are the things that don't fit in the normal waste stream. And those are some of the special collection initiatives that Melissa has been sort of administering over the past year. But I think you may also tell people at the barbecue that, you know, the town is going to be evaluating its needs over the next year, and we're going to be looking for opportunities to get input. So stay tuned. And if we kind of reach out through news and notice or something, or have, you know, the Zoom venue where we can, you know, get input and feedback, that's going to help us determine what the next long-term contract might look like, you know, which could include different equipment requirements, or, you know, it's really will open up the door to alternatives. One thing's for certain, costs are going up because there's all sorts of transportation process, you know, costs associated with everything we have. So the mantra is waste reduction, you know, across the board. And also, you know, putting waste into different bins so it can be managed most efficiently is another key concept. So those are things that we'll be exploring, and realize how best we maintain a sustainable, you know, program.
Thank you. Great. Thanks a lot.
Along
Andrew?
the waste reduction lines, has any thought been given to pushing curbside composting at the municipal level? We just started doing it because our neighbors recommended it. And I will say the weight reduction in our trash has been so dramatic that we're now going from doing a barrel a week that probably weighed 40 pounds or whatever the maximum was, to basically a barrel of plastic wrap every other week, while having the pickup of the small little green trash can that you see around that's just full of very heavy compostable material that doesn't end up in a landfill. So I don't know if there's been any, I know some communities around here have pushed, whether it's reducing startup costs, you know, because there's like you have to buy the bin or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like the municipality would pay that in order to get it out of the waste stream and get you signed up if you committed to a year or whatever. And I don't know if there's been any thought to that kind of program, but I'm
Absolutely.
recommending that to everybody. Composting is awesome because
Do you want to be a spokesperson? Yeah, absolutely. You know, what is it? I think 21% of our tonnage in the state is compostable food waste and other compostable wares. So it's definitely something that we will be promoting alongside of this next contract, whether it is part of the contract or we offer a incentive to do the commercial curbside composting. Because Andrew, I'm also a big fan.
Great idea. One last quick question, Melissa. In the rate schedule, you talked about the recyclables. It's kind of an open market and the price goes up and down. How frequently is what we're paying adjusted? Is it a monthly adjustment, or how is that handled?
Yep, there's a set of recycling market indices that are evaluated on either the first of the month or the first week of the month. And our fee is based on that for the previous month's collection.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Great question.
I think we're all set, Alan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Melissa. We'll bring Steve Dukrin, town engineer, up to speak about some of the engineering initiatives. Steve, are you there?
I'm here. Can you see me?
Yep. Okay, great.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, Chair and members. What we have on the screen there is the completed sidewalk and railing work on the Cambridge Turnpike at a Crosby Pond location. This area is part of the phase 2 contract. We come into the close of that contract. All that's left is doing some Roman seating of the roadside, and that project should be done. Verizon does have to do some work. They have some temporary poles on their line that they have to put underground. They were scheduled to do that a couple of weeks ago, but they got delayed on that. So we will see that they get that done soon. On the phase one part of the contract, if you see any activity out there in the coming weeks, there'll be the contractor trying to address some punch list items, which include some broken bricks on one of the crosswalks near the museum, as well as some loose gravel in front of the Emerson house. Let me move on to what we're showing here on the screen is work planned on Hubbard Street. This work is to be done by National Grid. The plan shows some significant coordination between National Grid's replacement of their pipe and the work that we, the town, are planning to do regarding especially drainage work. National Grid will be going before the select board on the 21st of this month to present a petition to put this new line in. This is a replacement line. It's considered new because the old one is going to be abandoned in the street. At the same meeting, we'll also have Comcast, who's doing their last portion of their undergrounding on Hubbard Street of the Comcast line. Now, Hubbard Street is one of our complete streets projects. We have 3 of them, and we did receive bids recently, and we are going through the contract documents and finalizing that contract so we can start this work this summer and continue to work through next construction season and have this project all done. The next, also included in this contract would be the Stowe Street parking lot right up the street off of Stowe Street. That's part of this project as well. So the other complete streets project is over on Com Ave between Church Street and Laws Brook Road. We have over the 25% design that we completed and brought to the West Concord Advisory Committee last week. We got input from them regarding the project. Essentially, it's the replacement of the sidewalks, bring them to compliance, some improvements to existing crosswalks, and road restoration. We did get input that we're going to try our best to incorporate in the plan. We will take this project and present it to the Transportation Advisory Committee at their next meeting later this month. The work, after we complete the design, hopefully this summer, is to start in the fall with any underground work, drainage, and maybe some sidewalk work, and then continue into the next season next year. It being part of a grant, we are required to spend the construction money by September of next year. So we are under tight schedule to get all of this work done. The third project as part of the Complete Streets grant is the Sudbury Road crosswalk over at 7 Star Lane. We did get bids back. I think we reported that at the last meeting. The low bid was quite high. And so we're working with the townhouse to get additional funding to be able to complete that project. That funding is expected to be approved under Article 9, as Alan mentioned earlier at the town meeting. And so that project should be done by fall of this year. Okay. What we're showing here is a photograph of works that started under the roads program this year. This is Park Lane. The pavement was being reclaimed yesterday and today. And it's taking the pavement, existing pavement, pulverizing it, mixing it with the gravels below, and then regrading it and paving, 3 inches or so of asphalt to give you a brand new road. Paving should be done on Friday. I think that's a new schedule for this work. We have other roads that have started work over on Warner Street. We have National Grid doing their work ahead of us coming to restore the street. The other roads, including the Prescott Street and Peter Spring Road neighborhood, that is also scheduled to be done this summer and fall. And hopefully that will get us through what we have programmed for this year. And then we start planning for next year. So planning for next year, this is a photograph of the street scan car. It's a car equipped with three-dimensional cameras that will drive the street and pick up the condition of the street. This was done a few years ago, and we are redoing it this year to get an update because the condition of the street changes year after year. This is going to help us look at our long-term plan, short-term and long-term plan for the streets as we look in the future. We're hoping to have all this information ready for us by fall of this year so we can come to the board and hold our public meetings like we did earlier this year. And we promise that we will be changing the timeline on these presentations to the public. This is an example of us trying to start our capital planning in the right mindset, looking at 5-year, 10-year timeline for all of our assets. In fact, if this car can also pick up other features along the road that we can use to plan, for instance, the striping. We can get the condition of the striping and also an inventory of signs. So we're looking at expanding our work with street scan to pick up other infrastructure items along the street and really put together a good capital plan for all our important infrastructure. This here is a sketch that we put together of the survey that was recently done over the Monument Street culvert for Sawmill Brook. As discussed earlier, this culvert has failure within it, and we are trying to address that. The culvert the failure resulted in significant flooding. With the help of the Highway and Grounds Division and other departments in town, we've been trying to keep the water down to reduce the impact and to the roadbed. Currently, we are putting together a contract. We have quotes under an emergency procurement, and we have selected a contractor. We're working through the contract documents and finalizing those. As well as the permits. There's a significant environmental permit that needs to be approved by the Natural Resources Division, and as well as the State Department of Environmental Protection. So the intention is to bring it back to what you see here. This is the upstream, the inlet side. Right now, if you go out there, you see it's still inundated, and the failures within this section. This is going to be replaced and rebuilt. Downstream, we have a photograph of that as well. This is what you see if you go out there. The head wall there, as you can tell, is loose stone, and that, according to the structural engineers, is also a potential for another type of failure. So the project will address extending that box culvert out like 10 to 15 feet and rebuilding the head wall and making that slope flatter so that it doesn't pose the kind of danger we see out there. Funding for this project is also will be done through Article 9 at the town meeting, and hopefully that gets approved so we can start the major work on this real soon. I want to just mention that we worked with our departments recently to put in a grant request for some improvements, pedestrian and bicycle improvements along Old Marlborough Road. Examples of what we're looking at near Upland Street, we're looking at making the crossing on the Bruce Freeman Trail with an improvement on detection. If a bicycle or pedestrian comes to the roadway, they will be detected automatically, and the flashing lights will go on. And instead of someone having to push the button, we understand that bicycles, it's kind of difficult for them to push the button at the same time when in the bicycle and be present at the street to look out for a car. So they avoid doing so, and it presents an unsafe situation. Other improvements that we're looking at doing, put in the feedback sign to go past Harrington, between Harrington and Williams, and then on Williams, put in the rapid flashing beacon, similar to what you have over at Upland. Today, it's just a crossing without any of that signalization. In addition, we're going to upgrade the 2 school zone signs near the middle school with more current type equipment because what you have there is obsolete. We just wanted to bring your attention to what we knew with our permitting. Like other departments in town, other divisions, we have transitioned into using a new software tool called Full Circle. So the permits that we do here in engineering include the right-of-way permit for excavations and other right-of-way work, as well as for driveways. So we are fully online with this new system, and it's been it's very successful in terms of ease of use and people liking it. And the big part of this is that we can integrate with other departments and divisions to get sign-offs. And so we found it very useful and very encouraging. Do you have anything else, Alan?
No, that should do it. That's it for engineering.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. A lot of good stuff happening. Any comments, questions from commission members? Jim?
Yeah, on the Commonwealth Avenue improvements, I know that that's due to the construction that's going to be happening there where we approved the sewer extension or additional sewerage amount. The roadway between Lawsbrook and the train tracks is in terrible shape. And so and this is only going to be handling part of the road. I would hope that, we're going to drive that street safe car up and down that road a couple times, because I think the rest of Commonwealth there should be done at the same time this work is done. So that's my 2 cents for that. The other comment is with regard to the Monument Street culvert. I suspect I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. My guess is that, or have you looked into other culverts around town that could have the same kind of failure that this one had, so that we can mitigate it beforehand?
So let me just give a quick synopsis. An inspection was done in around 2011 of all of our culverts. We have approximately 165 culverts of various dimensions, large and small, throughout town that's under our jurisdiction. And the town has been addressing the worst of them. They did the worst number one, or the worst one, the worst second, and I think the worst 4, and a couple others within the last 10 years. But what I haven't found is a program that a comprehensive program that addresses all of these. And I hate to use the excuse about new staff and all of that. This is one time too many, I'm sure. But we are planning, we are talking about culverts. Earlier this year, we were putting in an application for culvert funding. And so we were looking at the type of culverts that will meet the criteria to make the grant successful. and we did get an application in. But we, with what's happening, knowing that there's some of them that may have imminent failure or potential for that, we are planning to do just what you're saying. Take the information we already have, do scan of it, flag those that should get immediate attention. But because the information is 10 years old, we should be getting an updated set of inspections. So if we have the resources, we will plan on doing that. By the end of this year, hopefully, if we can afford it, and put together a program. So yeah, we are going to spend some time looking more closely at the information that we already have. 160 or so is a lot to do it at a glance. So you really have to spend some time on it.
Thank you. Any other questions from commission members? Anybody else in attendance that wishes to ask a question? Not seeing any, so we'll go on to the next report.
Okay, great. We'll take over from,
Could I ask a question? I'm sorry.
please.
Nancy Nelson. I'm observing from the Historical Commission, so I have a question about whether or not we can see more design information about complete streets for the 3 areas mentioned, and also for the shared streets and spaces, just to be able to see what the design actually looks like.
Yes, certainly we do have 2 of the projects already designed, and we have bids on them. So we can provide them however you want to access them. We can put them online if that's easier for you.
Yeah, that would be fine. Are they already up, or does that require extra work?
Well, some of these plans are big, so we might we might have to simplify the plan, maybe just choose the sheet that makes the most sense or gives you the most information. We can put those out online. And the Commonwealth Ave one, we're only at 25% design, and we expect to make quite a few changes after the meeting that we just had and the upcoming Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. So we'll make some more changes, and then we'll put that up. You were asking about shared streets. We have applied for a grant, and what I described earlier, it's mostly equipment.
Oh, gotcha.
Talk about flashing lights, flashing signs, feedback signs. And so these are cookie cutter designs, and like shop drawings. If you'd like to see those, I don't know if they'll make any sense to you. So, I mean, what we are presenting here earlier on that plan, I don't know if you want to look at it a little more closely.
Well, whatever makes, to begin with, whatever makes the easiest sense to you.
All right. Well, if you don't mind contacting me directly, and we can talk about how I can help you further.
I'll do that. Thanks very much.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and Nancy, let me just follow up. I think it's worth noting, and I think it's just kind of general information. Town offices are sort of going through a post-COVID reopening.
Yeah.
So, well, there's a lot of services that we've enhanced in using sort of emails and phone calls and online permitting activities. The offices, most town offices are going to be open at least from, I think at this point, 9 to 3. And I know Public Works will have sort of what we call our walk-in opportunities, but if someone wants to review a file or a plan or something, they can always call and make an appointment, and we will now be able to entertain that. So that's actually kind of good news, I think. We're starting to return to a normal, but I'd argue, and add with enhanced capabilities, because we've gotten a lot of, skills over the past year on ability to share remote information too. So
Okay.
thanks for asking the question, because it does does offer a lot of opportunities for people that as of this Monday coming up.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. I'll be in touch with Stephen.
Anybody else before we move on? Does not appear so. Back to you, Alan.
Okay, we'll now go to Aaron McCloskey, Highway Ground Superintendent. Aaron, are you present?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Good
So,
evening, everyone. My name is Aaron McCloskey, Highway and Ground Superintendent. So in this month's report, first slide you'll see is a picture of the Emerson Field project. We've updated the projects page on the Concord Public Works website with details on this project. Just a little bit of background. This has been kind of in discussion in preliminary design, final design for a number of years now. I've been involved for about the last year and a half on this project. We finalized the design and finally went out to bid for phase 1 of the construction on the Emerson Field Improvement Project. For those that aren't familiar, we did present to the commission, I would say maybe a year and a half ago. But since then, we've decided to kind of phase out the project due to kind of cost escalation based on original estimates. So phase 1 of the project is underway right now. That went out to bid early spring. Was awarded to Camoily Construction out of Lowell. Total contracted price is $769,000 with some add alternates that were included. And basically the phase 1 construction includes of a installation of ADA safety surface material for the entire playground area where those in the slide where the green areas are pointing. It includes a complete installation of a new irrigation system for the entire complex, the installation of a new irrigation well, the rehabilitation of 3 existing wells, and the installation of ADA accessible pathways connecting through the park. That way it'll allow, and right now there's no pathway to get from Stowe Street, the Hunt Gym, basketball court, playground, and pool area across the park. Everyone has to kind of walk across sometimes uneven grass surfaces. So there'll be pathways going from Stowe Street all the way across to Thoreau, and then cutting across and in the kind of the area in between the flagpole and the trees right there. And also doing some turf rehabilitation and fence repair in phase 1. So construction is underway currently, and this is a map of the area that's currently closed to the public, where we have some construction vehicles being staged. We've also this week kind of demoed the existing splash pad and walkway. Future phases of the project will include the installation of a new splash pad, which we hope to will be requesting funding for in FY23 and some CPA funding. Anticipate to have a CPA application in for next year's FY23 allocation as well. The department recently received a new piece of equipment that we had ordered last year. This is a 60-inch rotary mower mounted on a 23-inch boom that attaches to one of our existing loaders, a cat loader. The roadside mower is a typical public works piece of equipment. Departments will cut back brush along the roadways to widen the roadway, improve sight lines, kind of cut back invasives, make it more aesthetically pleasing. You can see this machine here. This is on Lewis Street in the corner of Emerson Park in anticipation of the upcoming paving. This machine will be deployed almost daily as staffing and weather allows in the spring and summer season, and then into the fall. I would say overall the town, the roadways have grown and narrowed over the years. So we anticipate that we'll be cutting back a little bit each year in anticipation to kind of widen the right of way a little bit and improve kind of traffic safety and sight lines throughout town. So if you see areas that look like that, it will grow back. We try to do more cutting earlier in the season before everything starts to green up, so there's less of an immediate impact. This is a photo of one of the pieces is our flatbed trailer, landscape trailer that we use. This is a repair. We replaced our fleet supervisor and master mechanic replaced these fenders. equipment brats out. And instead of just buying a new trailer, we'll purchase a new fender so we can extend the life of our equipment. We have two very skilled mechanics that are on our staff, and they have a wide range of skills, including welding, metal fabrication, and we're able to make kind of major repairs on pieces of equipment to extend the life. So this is an example. The town recently procured and received 3 fully electric mowers. These are mean green machines, 2 48-inch standards and a 60-inch zero turn ride-on mower. Like I said, again, these are fully electric. These are kind of cutting-edge technology. These are deployed and in use currently throughout town. You might see them mowing Emerson Park or any other open space in town. So Concord Public Works took 2 of these. One of them is being used by the landscape division of facilities group for some of the open spaces that facilities maintains. This was funded through Concord Public Works equipment general fund, as well as funding from the sustainability funds that are allocated by the town. And the total cost for these 3 mowers is just north of $60,800.
Okay, thanks, Aaron.
Aaron, mowers look great. I'm just curious, how long can they run on a charge? Can they get through a whole day?
Oh yes, we can get through about almost 2 days worth of work on a full
Excellent.
charge.
That's impressive.
They're great machines, getting great feedback from the operators. Obviously less noisy. Like anything, when technology first comes out, they work out the kinks. These have been out for a few years now. These are very reliable, and we're excited to have them.
Great. David?
Can you drag race with them?
They do. I mean, it's fully electric, so when you hit it forward, it goes full on.
Seriously, actually, another question on the previous slide. Is the pool closed this summer? The Emerson project, is that the pool that's closed?
Great question. The answer is no. It is not closed. It is open. It is currently that entire area is closed to the general public. There's some details on the Concord Public Works construction updates page that state that the pool is closed to the public but open for recreation and town staff to maintain and get ready. We will update this slide weekly or as we receive updates. We work closely with recreation facilities and the youth sports groups that use this facility, and their recreation programs are open start at the end of June, and we have committed to have access to the pool area open to them and any of their users by the start of their recreation program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Good question. And, Public Works does try to coordinate, with various departments as, projects and impacts occur. So, Aaron's done a good job with this, and, we were able to navigate it so they could continue operations and we could move forward with our needed improvements. So.
And I would also note, just so everyone's aware, for the Emerson project, there will be later in the season, after the recreation programs are done, the playground will be closed for a period of time while we install the new safety surfacing. And there will be periodic closures of different areas of the park as we're making improvements. If you're to go out there right now and look, you'll see our irrigation contractor pulling pipe throughout the park. We've not closed the entire park, but we ask folks to avoid construction activities as they're going through. So they might see a small excavator digging a small trench to install irrigation main, or a ditch witch, or a pole dragger kind of pulling irrigation line underneath the turf.
Thanks. Is there
Thank
any,
you, Aaron. Any other questions?
Alan, is there any update on the water situation from the last month?
Yeah, so we're about to go to
Perfect.
water sewer. So I'm going to have John Rogers get on and, basically provide that update.
Yeah. So good timing, David. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. John Rogers, Superintendent of Water and Sewer. So yeah, a lot of attention to lawn watering restriction at this point. There is, the state declaration, though we don't follow it strictly, we refer to it. There is talk of upgrading some areas, but not in this area. But we are concerned about our capacity to meet all the demand primarily because of the Nagog Pond work that we're continuing right now, and have a little more time before we connect that and have that in. Doing a lot of work up there that limits the full capacity that we would typically have this time of year available. So anyway, we got a lot of messages out 2 weeks ago when the hot weather started on strong. We got a little bit of relief from a lot of rain, though it was pretty localized. And haven't gotten a whole lot since. So yes, we are concerned about it, keeping an eye on it. We're talking pretty much every week. Do we need to get out a preemptive message for folks? Do we need to start doing inspections around irrigation? People aren't supposed to be watering on Mondays, and they're only on watering on days that they have municipal trash pickup in their neighborhood. So anyway, we're keeping an eye on that and keeping up with the demand. Okay, maybe a little bit thanks because of the weather. So maybe not the heat of the last couple of days. So yeah, stay tuned. We're moving these variable message boards around quite regularly. We sense that gets a little more attention, sort of, puts it in people's, in front of people all across town in little different ways, seeing it in different places. So we're hoping that is having an effect. If you have any thoughts and hearing things from your neighbors, let us know. Yeah, this is a slide that we thought would be important to add because we do have, as we've mentioned, a fair amount. We have a lot of issues around water quality requirements and concerns. The current issue at PFAS, we talked about that a fair amount last time. We appeared to have dodged a bullet on that one, unlike some other communities around us. Anyway, we've got the final results in. They, frankly, don't require us to do anything immediately other than for one of our supplies, do monthly testing rather than the quarterly we're doing on all the required on all the others. There's that. Bromate is an issue that we have up at Nagog Pond, and we have to report it, and we just barely went over the reportable, and we've made numerous reports to the community because it is required by DEP. We get questions when those go out. We're addressing those, and really the real solution to the bromate issue is, even though we are slightly over for that seasonal source, that is one of the main reasons to be doing the filtration plant. And so we're trying to finish up the intake project, and in long term, we will address that bromate issue. It's probably still going to be out there for a while for us. And we're trying to come up with other measures that can address it in the short term. It seems to be making enough of a difference to get us down that small increment that we're over the limit. So, and then there's the Water Management Act registration that is upcoming for all of our system, and the state is working to incrementally go around the state and get that done. It remains to be seen what we'll get. But we think we have a pretty good sense for what that is going to be about for us, but it may, steer our ship a little differently going forward, depending upon what it has. Similarly, the other thing that's actually, you can see it in the water drop there on the right, NPDS is another, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System relative to our wastewater treatment plant. They've been talking for some time of getting us a draft permit for the treatment plant, an updated permit. We're still waiting for that as well. So there's a lot of these things out there that we're working on, so day to day really. But speaking day to day, there is our Director of Public Works out at Nagog Pond at the gatehouse and dam, the south end of Nagog Pond. We had a little bit of a break in the intake pipe, intake structure, and some of the work inside the ozone building that's just through the woods from what you're looking at. And so we took this opportunity to clean part of the intake pipe section that is to remain. The intake pipe section is in sort of two parts. One is the shallower cove section and the deep section. We're replacing the deep section and putting in a new intake structure there. But we decided we had a little bit of downtime, so we got out there and did some cleaning and did some CCTV inspection of the pipe we're going to leave in place for at least a little bit longer, and see if we can't dial in a plan for how we might, what we might do with that, replacing it, cleaning it more, all of those things. So this activity took place a couple weeks ago. Another activity is we lease an ozone tank for the ozone that we apply to the water. Yeah, right there in the sort of upper center of the photograph. We got that in about 3 weeks ago or so, got it filled, and we have got some water running through it to test that the ozone is working. Our guys, to their credit, we had portable equipment for the ozone system that we've used for a couple of years. It was outdoors. It was felt that it would last us longer, be more reliable, less of a concern if we moved it indoors. They did that. So all that system now has been tested and is working quite well. So anyway, that's what we're looking at the ozone facility. And then, but the big part of this, and we're hoping to get is to get that new pipe installed and the inlet structure. This is the actual inlet structure, fiber reinforced plastic, stainless steel bolted up. It sits on a concrete, basically tabletop that's in an X shape. And they are right now expecting tomorrow actually to start installing the substructure under that, to then put the concrete on, and then the tower. They're right now working on the final fusing of pipe that would go sit inside that structure, and including the inlet, which is this sort of fine mesh stainless steel structure that we also have an air blast pipe that would clean that off on the frequency we determine that is needed, rather than the more awkward manual system we have currently. So that's ongoing. Lowell Road Pump Station, and the next one is the Assabet Road Pump or Assabet Pump Station, getting close to completion. Really Assabet's just about there. Lowell Road's a little behind, but they're really just working on final fussy things, including the SCADA upgrade we're doing throughout our system that ties all that equipment so that our guys can see it sort of anywhere at home, and they can control a lot of equipment. So that work is continuing, and we're hoping to wrap that up in the next month or so, though it takes a little while to commission all the equipment, make sure it's just running the way we want it, and close out the contract. So that's a quick summary of what we got going, and be glad to answer any questions. I'm sure Alan could answer some questions probably better than I can on certainly on some of the historic issues.
Thank you, John. Any questions from commission members? Any questions for anybody else in attendance? Yes, Rod. You just need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you. This is Rod Rydell, 324 Main Street. I'm an observer for the Council of Aging. And John, thank you very much for the summary. I do have some follow-up questions related to NAGOG and PFAS. So let me just lay those out for you. When Alan gave the last update, there was no test results for NAGOG. Do you have test results, even a preliminary test results for PFAS on NAGOG source water?
No, we don't. And that is because it's not operational yet. So it's still in an intermediate stage. We are pulling water through it to make sure that the system as we have it now, but the inlet intake pipe is shortened in order to find the location that we're going to tie in the new pipeline. So we don't have a final operational condition that we would test and have results that really mean anything.
Okay.
Surface water supplies are less likely or historically having less PFAS discovered in them. So, but we can't know, and we can't really know until we really test it as it's put in place. And, we're hoping that the new intake location has some, gives us some benefits, including potentially PFAS and bromate. But we can't know any of those things until we've got it up and running. So we're still a little ways away from that. But yeah, as soon as we do have it up and running, we have to have some communication with DEP, as well as, get the testing, as you mentioned.
That's great. It remains a strategic vulnerability for you right now until you resolve that issue. That's a comment.
Exact. Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Yep,
So
exactly.
I do have one other PFAS related question, and that has to do with the UCargill well, which I believe Alan said had just scored at 20, a little bit close, I'm sorry, 10 parts per trillion, and was dangerously close to the reportable limit. Is there a series of criteria that the state has recommended in terms of determining that a potential source should not be used? I understand the monthly monitoring, but when do you have to shut down using a source or start treating it for PFAS?
Yeah, and Alan could
I can
certainly
speak
chime
to
in.
that.
Yeah.
Only, Rod, because I'm involved kind of statewide on this issue.
Sure.
So first, to be very clear, for Concord, Hugh Cargill is our, sort of the one that we're keeping an eye on now. It'd be very important to preface, it's at half the standard, 10, the standard's 20, but we also know the parts per trillion, the tolerance is just,
Absolutely.
it's unprecedented. So we are, observing, but the good news is we did 2 samples from that source, and I'll speak to the NAGOG. You do a raw water sample and a finished water after you've processed the water, added whatever it is you do, for disinfection or pH adjustment. So the good news is both samples were very close to the same result for, the confirmatory. So it gives me a little, a little assurance that the numbers were right and they weren't there wasn't a wild fluctuation. So that was good, both sample dates as well as the raw and finished. So there were 4 samples that kind of give me a sense that 10's probably about right. So in the next issue, you look at is seasonal, variations. That's what the state likes to see. That's why they would do the quarterly. But because we were over 10, and the state is, I'm going to say this, making it up as they go along. So this is not, just Massachusetts. This is a national issue. Massachusetts said, let's do quarterly until you can possibly sample out of, it's a fairly costly, testing regime. So the monthly is just going to give us that much better assurance or data from Hugh Cargill. And the issue with the state is depending on what you have available, some systems are shutting off a source if it tests over 20 parts per trillion. That's the threshold if they can do it. Many systems don't have an option. So they simply have to provide notification that, the results are over 20. And if you go online and read about this, there's lots of good information that's being generated almost real time. Go to Wellesley, go to Wayland, they're sort of recent, sort of tag you're at, and they have good information that you can kind of look at. Milford, there's different communities that are providing good public education. Concord, I would say, go to our website. We have included the data on our website with some background information for people who are interested. But Rod, I'd say that we are more comfortable now than we were a month ago, much more comfortable than you were 3 months ago, when it really was questionable, what are we going to be finding, but I think with that comfort is we're still mindful that the regulatory arena, EPA doesn't have a standard, for instance. So they may, over a course of years, do their own assessment. It's all epidemiological based, frequency occurrence based. So we'll be tracking that. But right now, I think we are in a good position, relatively speaking. And so, we are not in a position we would be shutting a source down because of 10.
That's great. Thanks a lot for that information. I just have one comment. And it would be well worth having, because this event, even if it's improbable right now, could have a very, very significant impact on your budget, on townwide water use. It might be worth scheduling some kind of a meeting internally for some kind of contingency planning on what you might do, just in terms of an emergency contingency plan, which may be useful to you. Best time to do that is when you don't have to. So it'd be great to have it in your pocket.
Well, I would say, Rod, and to the commission, our last rate hearing for water sewer, we did capture some funds that are available so that we're not caught flat-footed if we had to respond. And so we're, looking at the financial potential, implications. But again, I think, the alternatives are fairly drastic, what we're seeing. And so we're aware of them, we're monitoring everything from point of use treatment in homes to provisions of bottled water to communities, to interconnections with neighboring communities, primarily if you have MWA connections. So we're tracking all of those things, which is why we feel a little more comfortable that where we stand is we could even eliminate a source, but it would obviously ratchet up the water restrictions significantly. And that would be, when you're talking about public health and safety, that's first and foremost. So we do have some flexibility.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that update. Appreciate it.
Any questions from anybody else? Jim?
Yeah, Jeff, the reports today have been fantastic. They provided us a lot of information that is going to carry forward to all the different things that are going on. Alan made a comment about improvements to the Public Works website. I think that they have already done a fantastic job. Since my responsibilities are a lot less, I've spent a lot more time on the website before this meeting, and I found a fantastic amount of information that if you go and want to find something, your chances of finding what you want is very good. But that brings me to two things that I want to bring up just for the future. There was something that was called the Residential Roadway Cut-Through Traffic Study. And that was something that was going to be done before COVID started. And my suspicion is that maybe something happened to that, but that ought to be something that we maybe put on our plans for the fall. And the second one is there's a lead and copper rule program where 30 houses homes were going to be tested in 2020. And I guess that probably didn't happen also. That's a 3-year program that the water sewer people handle. So again, my suspicion is that that's going to be in the works for maybe this year, but I just want to bring it up as for something to think about in the future.
Okay, Jim, if I can respond, the lead and copper sampling is a regulatory requirement. It did occur.
Okay.
And I apologize, in the blur, the fog of COVID, I'm not sure if it was last summer. I think it was last summer we did the sampling. I know Alex Wallstrom, our staff, environmental regulatory coordinator, sort of oversaw that. It was challenging, but I think we did that. John, and that was before John Rogers was even on board. But I'll take a look at the website and see if we have any opportunity to update that, if there's, that information exists. And as far as the cut-through study, I think we're kind of looking forward to all the remote workers just staying at home and no longer cutting through Concord. That's our plan. But I think we will revisit that and kind of share with the commission in the fall as well. Thank you for that.
We got to find something to keep Jim busy, Alan. Anything else, Alan, while we're on the director's report? Anything else you want to add?
No, I think there was one theme, and I'll underscore, I don't know if Terry Ackerman's on, listening as the liaison from the select board, but I know she also participated in the capital planning committee. And I think it's encouraging where, Public Works is in line with this philosophy of we really need to know what the needs are. Jim's point of, what's the status of our culverts, looking at the complete streets as far as an inventory. We do believe, and we want to understand what the needs are, prioritize them, put costs associated with them, so we can incorporate some of these things into, not just the short-term annual, budget hearings and plans, but what are we really looking at over 5-10 years? And I know that's in keeping with what the capital planning committee has been, identified as a need. I think for Public Works, we're familiar with this with the water and wastewater because we have enterprise funds and it allows you to do this and it's necessary for rate setting. But I think it's equally compelling townwide for understanding, taxes and debt planning and that sort of thing. So, we want to, just ensure the commission that that's a concept that we embrace. We need to do the needs assessment. I think we have the skills in-house to manage these things, and it's up to the community to decide and help us fund the initiatives. We got to, present what the needs are and make the case. But I think that's something which I just want to, salute, given it's a townwide initiative. So.
Thank you.
I see Terry is actually present.
Yeah, oh, sorry, thank you. Yes, Terry.
Well, thank you, Alan. Yes, the Capital Planning Task Force, I was a member of that task force and we've just had the presentation to the select board. Next, the select board has to decide what to adopt. Thank you for your support, Alan. I will mention the enterprise funds are not really part of those recommendations because they were not part of our charge. But if you feel strongly that they should be included, the select board, like I said, is not yet adopted. We've accepted the report. Now we have to decide which of the recommendations we're going to do or not do or change. So if anyone has any comments, great, because in the next month or two, we're going to be figuring out how to get going on it and implement, I hope, some of the recommendations.
Yeah. And Terry, to that point, my point was primarily, I'm familiar with this sort of planning range. It's comfortable. And when I started talking with the town engineer and highway ground superintendent, they're equally comfortable. So the water, wastewater, we have a good plan. It's why we have our rates. It's why we can sort of plan accordingly. And you're right, it doesn't impact the tax base. And but standalone, it's solid. And that's very encouraging, but also it's the philosophy, I think we're in keeping. So, it's not an ask for additional oversight. The Public Works Commission, primarily through rates and that sort of thing, are the entity and authority that sort of help manage that. But we've been doing it this way for 25 years, I think, so continue to do so. But in any event, we do look forward to participating in the broader, townwide initiatives in the general fund.
Right, thank you. And actually, I should say, yes, the enterprise funds do have excellent planning. But what we found was there's not good coordinated planning between the town general fund and the schools. And not great transparency sometimes where the citizens can find all of the capital plans they want to look at on the website all in one place. So those are the things that we're going to try to address. Transparency, citizen input, and collaboration.
Thank you, Terry. You all set, Alan? We move on?
Yes, please. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to turn things over to Jim Terry to express some appreciation to Andrew for his service on the board, on the commission.
Yeah, today's Andrew's last meeting as a commissioner. He served us for 6 full years. I have a few words to say, not a whole lot. Two of you, Jeff and David, have never met him in person. We've actually, we've gone a whole year with just pictures of us on the Zoom board here. That's been a little bit different. And it's difficult getting to understand who your other commissioners are. But I've got a couple comments for Andrew, and hopefully he won't take him too badly. He never dominates any of our discussions, but he makes significant contributions to important issues. And that's one of the things that we're going to miss. He always asks great questions. Casey told me that in the past, when she's had questions of a technical manner and she sent it out in an email to other commissioners trying to find out what would help her get a good understanding, Andrew was always quick. He was always there. He was always preparing information that was helpful to her and to the other commissioners. We're going to miss you, Andrew. I understand that the town is going to be well served because you're now going to be on the planning board. So you're going to be continue to be a busy person. We're going to miss you, but I think that with Andrea joining us, we've got a full group of 5 people, and we'll do the best we can.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Andrew. I'm glad you're going to be helping the town in another manner here. Alan, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure, I'd love to, from the perspective of, staff and someone who's been able to work with Andrew, fairly closely on a number of issues. One of the most important ones and greatest opportunities to sort of understand someone's thinking and approach, related to Nagog Pond. I'd say all things Nagog. Andrew's been involved to some degree. And I would just say that his approach has always been one of, as Jim had mentioned, he asks the right questions. When I say the right questions, they make you think. They're on target. Ideally, we have an answer. And if we don't, we're sort of on a charge to figure it out. But Andrew's questions are always, they're never challenging in the way of what did you do wrong or, why not this? Always in a supportive, manner. And when it comes to, serving a board or commission or even a resident, staff appreciates that, where we're given some benefit of the doubt. We are experts in our fields, we believe. Concord does a good job, hiring people who know what they're doing. And as professional staff, we're not opposed to being challenged, but Andrew does it in a way that's more inquisitive and thoughtful and supportive. And I just wanted to sort of put that out there, that it's been appreciated, from someone who has worked closely with him. And I'm sure he'll serve the planning staff well by, encouraging, supporting, enabling. And when you do that with staff, you just get a lot of productivity and collaboration. So Andrew, thanks on behalf of this end of it for your efforts for public works over the past 6 years.
It's been a great experience. You guys are all in good hands, and I know everyone will carry on very well without me. No, thank you. It's been really interesting. I hope I can somehow apply my experience with registered and other sources of water, but we'll see. We'll see.
And I'd like to say thank you, Andrew. Obviously, as Jim said, we never actually got to meet face to face. Hopefully that'll happen someday. And the little bit I've got to work with you, I definitely agree with what both Jim and Alan said. You very thoughtful questions, and I think, as you said, we'll do fine, but make sure we continue to come up with those thoughtful questions, because you definitely added value to the discussions. Does anybody else would like to add anything?
Well, I've enjoyed working with you, Andrew, and really appreciate all of your help.
Okay, with that, we'll move on just to general commissioner comments. Is there any
Carlin Reed has her hand up.
Oh, great.
Andrew, it's Carlin Reed. I have to tell you, I've been watching you for the last 3 years on these committee meetings. And I must say, I'm glad that the planning board is finally going to figure out that you need to consider sewer connections in making their planning decisions. They really need you, and I'm glad that you're continuing on with the service to the town. Congratulations. That's it. Thanks.
Sorry, I should have checked with you, Anna. Anybody else? If not, then we'll just move on to open commissioner comments. Any questions, comments that any of the commission members would like to bring forward at this point? Seeing none, how about any comments from the public who may be in attendance? Terry.
I just want to say real quickly that this is probably my last meeting as observer liaison from the select board. I've been your liaison for 2 years. I've really enjoyed working with all of you. Alan, your enthusiasm and your responsiveness. Anna, Melissa, John, Stephen, Aaron, everybody's really terrific. And all the commissioners, Andrew, Jim, David, Jeff, and I guess welcome Andrea. All of you, thank you so much for your service. And I'm sure we'll run into each other again at the next opportunity. Thanks.
Sure we will. Thank you, Terry. Anyone else? See any hands, Anna?
No, I don't see anyone else.
Okay. So with that, I'd just like to mention that thank you for including the news clips and some of the other comments in the packet that was sent out to all of us. I particularly like the notes and the thank yous. Those are really great. I mean, it just helps personalize things and lets us all know how much the staff is appreciated by town residents. So thank you for including those. With that, if there are no other comments or questions, I'm going to ask, oh, David, yes.
Question, so our next meeting will be September? Is that right?
Yes, it'll be the September, unless there is something
Right.
compelling. It'll be the second Wednesday in September. I will say that the governor's, as part of the COVID reopening plan, still has an emergency declaration regarding the open meeting laws. And so I know there's a lot of evaluation, a lot of interest in trying to figure out how to, continue a certain amount of this format. But we'll provide additional information as far as Jim mentioned. It might be nice to get together and actually see each other. At the same time, we're in a new world order of, are there blended meetings and opportunities, and how do we make this work? We'll be evaluating that over the summer, but we are looking for September. What do we have?
Number 8.
8th, yeah.
8th, okay. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion to close the meeting, I'd like to thank Jim. Your leadership over the months I was on certainly helped prepare me to lead some meetings. So thank you very much. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
Second by Dave. So we'll take a roll call. First of all, any comment? If not, I'll take a vote. James Terry.
Aye.
Andrew Boardman.
Aye.
David DeLong.
Aye.
And Jeff Passer, aye. Thank you all very much. Guess we're not going to see you for the summer, so everybody have a great summer. And we'll see you all maybe at town meeting, and if not, in September. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.